Please don't be mad. I did a little bit of this without you guys. Reason being is it just takes a long time. I'm going to use some 220. We'll finish this up and then we'll get to the exciting part, which is all of the routing. If I had done this before, it just would have been an hour of me sanding by hand, and that's kind of boring to watch. I've installed over 200 Evertune units, and today you'll get to see exactly how I do it. What I'm going to do, just wrap a little bit of sandpaper around my test piece. I know this is perfectly flat, and then I'm just going to sand. I put tape all over here. I know that when I start to hit the tape, I'm getting close to the top of the guitar surface. I gave the glue 3 days to dry, so once the moisture evaporates out of the glue, it doesn't shrink or expand unless I was to put this through like extreme heat. I'm also just using a glove because this stuff will tear up your fingers. You can still see the glue. Over here I've started to remove a tiny bit of the paint, that's okay. Here I'm starting to flake the glue off a little bit. So you just want to go around evenly until you start to get a bit uniform in your wear marks. I kind of touched every area surrounding my inlay. So now it's time to pull all of this tape off, put the neck back on, mark everything up and get everything ready for Evertuning. I've installed over 200 Evertune units, and today you'll get to see exactly how I do it. First, you'll need an Evertune, then you'll need a guitar that's getting Evertuned, some specific drill bits for your Evertune templates, and on top of that, you'll need a high-powered router. Alright, so usually I do this with a luthier straight edge. I'm just going to line this down either side of the neck, draw a line, and then I can divide the distance between those two, and that will give me my center line. I like to measure twice, cut once. You can take wood away, you can't necessarily put it back, even though that's kind of what I just did with the inlay. I tend to move it up and down just so I can get a number that's easily divisible by 2. So here the distance is 80 millimeters. So what's half of 80? 40. So put a mark at 40. Here we have 88 millimeters. Half of 88 is going to be 44. Here is your center line. This rule is only in fractions of a bald eagle, but doesn't necessarily matter. Okay, so here's our 12th fret. Put a mark right there, and then we just flip the rule around, and then we put that same mark from the nut end where our bridge is. Our neck alignment, our center line, and our scale length mark right here, which is going to be important when it comes to the Evertune template placement. It's important to make sure you've done all of your measuring, because once you drill these holes, there literally is no going back. You will make mistakes. There are always accidents. You are only human at the end of the day. You are not a literal robot. So you make a mistake, try not to be too hard on yourself. I know it's easier said than done. Now, I said in the last video, a lot of people will use double stick tape. I've had double stick tape move on me, so I tend to tape up all sides from the top down. Make sure that mark is exactly where you want it to be. Hold it down, press the tape. Our scale length line is in there, and our center line on our template. Drill 4 holes, and then that gives us mounting positions for the rest of our templates, front and back. They're going back now. Next, you can take template number 2. This sits over the top. You can align this with 2 of the drill bits you just used, and then we're going to get a razor blade and remove this tape. There's our lovely ash inlay underneath there. You would never know. So on all F system Evertunes, this first route is always 1 inch deep. I'm going to set up my router with my spiral bit from SPE tool. Because of the spiral, it helps hold the actual router bit in the material. I'm just going to plunge until the ball bearing touches the very top of my router template, and then I know that I'm going to be roughly 1 inch inside of the guitar. Okay, so that's route 1. Got my implant in here. Pretty happy with that. It's nice and clean. I'm just going to find the 4 holes that I drilled earlier. These are going to serve as our locator holes for the next template. Find the center point and alignment of this back template. These are for the screws for the back plate. All right, next template. This one has the smaller route for the rear retainer plate that actually holds the Evertune down and in. This one we route all the way through until we reach the other side. And I've just mounted it with 2 drill bits of the same size. That's all taped up. I'm just going to route about 1 to 2 millimeters in this pocket. When using a router, either wait until it stops or tilt it away from the surface. Don't try and lift it directly up. You might accidentally nick your router template. For this next route, I know that I just have to go through this until I just break the surface through this guitar, and then I'll finish up around the edges, and then that's my depth for the next route. So I've just broken through here, so now I know how deep to go in order to get my depth, and then I'll finish this route at that depth. So that's all done. Definitely no going back now. This is the biggest route when it comes to an Evertune. So this one actually sits across here, and this is where the entire body of the Evertune sits. It takes a lot of time to get through this, and then we move on to the final pass. All right, I have my larger router bit back in this router. It's time to route this down. Back in a sec. Okay, so second last route. Now you can see we are down to depth in the main route. The next one we need to do is to take this right down. So we're gonna deepen this cavity just a little bit more so we can fit the front edge of the Evertune in. This is the last route before doing a little bit of manual trimming. So taking off the last template because I need to get right down and make this shelf in here about 4 to 5 millimeters thick in order to allow room for the Evertune saddles to move back and forth and intonate correctly. And now I'll do that to depth. It's really important with that part that you go super slow, because this is the part where my previous inlay actually joins to the rest of the timber. Now you can see how super clean and tight that joint is, but when you're working with 2 separate sets of wood grain, if you don't go slow, the router might have a tendency to grab the more dense piece of wood, because like I mentioned, not all wood is grown equal. Just be careful when you're doing that sort of stuff. These little ridges in here, I'll just clean up with a chisel. But now I need to chamfer this little shelf in here with a Dremel, and then my entire Evertune route is finished. If you want to be super safe, I'd recommend maybe putting on template 1 and sticking that down just so you don't flex this shelf in here too much. But I mean, I've used the Dremel time and time again, so I'm going to chamfer this at a bit of an angle just to allow the saddle some room to move. Okay, that's what that looks like on the inside. You see that? Pretty just clean sort of ramp up into there. It's going to allow the saddles room to move for intonation. And now we can remove all of the tape and test fit the Evertune. So our route is all finished, front and back. As you can see, I have the unit here, and moment of truth, just make sure everything fits and aligns correctly. The unit goes in pretty steep like this, back, and there we have it. It's in, we're ready to do some grain matching. The back looks pretty clean. Retainer plate will go over here. There's 4 bolts and 2 retainer bars that hold and squeeze the Evertune, and then I'll chamfer all of these holes and the back plate will go on. So once that's done and I make sure everything actually fits correctly, I'll lift the unit out. I'll draw a line around the base plate here. I'll continue the ash grain from the original body through my infill. Then it will get a little bit of paint just over the top, and we then have an installation that looks completely invisible, and though it was done at the factory, which is usually my goal when it comes to any single Evertune installation. I do have as well some rosewood, so I'm going to do a locking nut delete. I've never done that before, so I'm pretty excited. My customer accepted the offer to have this done, so I will learn a new skill along with you guys watching. If you have questions, as always, just post them below and I'll answer them at the start of the next video. Thanks for following along and have a good one.